Traditional composting is an inefficient allocation of resources. For years, the standard protocol has demanded constant labor, turning piles, monitoring thermal spikes, and waiting months for a return on organic investment. It is a system defined by maintenance, not results. There is a superior architectural approach to soil fertility, a centuries-old German methodology that eliminates the need for maintenance while maximizing output. This is not a modern trend. It is Hugelkultur. While conventional methods focus on short-term decomposition, Hugelkultur builds a long-term subterranean asset. Pioneers like Sepp Holzer and Paul Wheaton have demonstrated that this technique can scale from a backyard plot to a kilometer-long agricultural installation. The logic is simple. While you wait for a compost pile to finish, a Hugelkultur system is already sequestering water, releasing essential nutrients, and fortifying your landscape for the next 3 decades. To understand Hugelkultur, look past the technical jargon. It is the strategic burial of biomass. Imagine the woody debris, fallen logs, and organic waste that most consider liabilities. In this system, they become your primary capital. The protocol for construction is precise, yet accessible. First, excavate a foundation approximately 3 feet deep. This is where you deposit your carbon-based logs, thick branches, and hardwood debris. Second, layer your nitrogen-rich accelerants. This includes grass clippings, fallen leaves, and seasoned manure. Finally, seal the structure with a high-quality soil cap and begin planting immediately. The efficiency lies in the decomposition cycle. Underground, the wood acts as a biological sponge. It does not simply rot, it evolves. Over time, it releases a steady stream of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. This is decentralized fertility delivered directly to the root zone with zero external input. You are no longer just gardening. You are managing a self-sustaining ecosystem, a system that values efficiency over effort, a system that builds legacy soil. Traditional composting is a task. Hugelkultur is a strategy. The choice depends on whether you value your labor or your results. In the world of strategic resource management, we often overlook the most efficient engine ever designed: the forest floor. Imagine a biological asset that requires zero maintenance, generates its own thermal energy, and yields a consistent return for over 60 years. This is not a theoretical model. This is Hugelkultur. At its core, Hugelkultur is a masterclass in long-term ROI. By interring massive volumes of wood beneath the earth, we create a high-capacity subterranean reservoir. When precipitation occurs, this buried timber acts as a biological sponge, sequestering moisture deep within the strata. The result is a self-watering infrastructure that remains resilient even during prolonged periods of drought. As the wood slowly breaks down, it creates a natural aeration system. This internal subsidence keeps the soil structure loose and oxygenated, effectively automating the tilling process without a single hour of manual labor. Furthermore, the decomposition process is exothermic. During the initial phases, the mound generates consistent heat, effectively extending the operational window of your growing season. It is a system that demands no monitoring, no external energy, and no temperature checks. It simply performs. This level of efficiency was born from necessity. In the aftermath of World War II, Central Europe faced a logistical crisis, a landscape cluttered with fallen timber and debris paired with strict environmental mandates against burning. In 1962, German innovators like Hermann André looked at this waste and saw potential. They observed the natural regeneration of old-growth forests, how fallen giants became the lifeblood of the next generation. They realized that by replicating this slow decay cycle, they could transform organic waste into the most fertile soil on the planet. To implement this system, follow the protocol. First, excavate a trench or clear a site for the foundation. Lay down the heaviest logs as your primary carbon base. Layer these with smaller branches followed by nitrogen-rich organic matter like grass clippings or compost. Finally, seal the mound with a layer of topsoil. This creates a vertical ecosystem that maximizes surface area while minimizing footprint. In the 1990s, Sepp Holzer scaled this concept to an industrial level, proving that these massive mounds could sustain entire farms. Hugelkultur is more than a gardening trend. It is a legacy investment. It is the transition from active management to passive abundance. It is quite literally building a future that feeds itself. In the world of high-performance land management, the most sophisticated systems aren't found in a laboratory. They are engineered into the earth itself. Consider the work of Sepp Holzer. He developed installations stretching nearly a kilometer, achieving results so profound they garnered global recognition. Today, his methodology is the gold standard in permaculture circles worldwide. Interestingly, Holzer never utilized academic terminology. He simply called it gardening. But the mechanics of his work, systematically stacking organic matter to foster long-term decomposition, is exactly what we now define as Hügelkultur. This is a proven centuries-old technique that until recently remained an untapped asset in mainstream American agriculture. We are seeing a shift. As the demand for efficiency increases, professionals are realizing that Hugelkultur offers the benefits of industrial composting with zero operational overhead. To understand why this system is so effective, we must look at the underlying science of the hydrological battery. Water management is the primary challenge for any landscape. By burying wood beneath the surface, you are essentially installing a subterranean reservoir. Wood is an exceptional medium for absorption. A single log functions as a massive organic sponge capturing rain that would otherwise result in runoff or groundwater loss. During periods of precipitation, water filters through the soil and becomes locked within these buried logs. When the surrounding environment faces drought stress, the Hugelkultur bed initiates a slow-release mechanism. Your vegetation taps into this stored moisture, maintaining peak health while neighboring gardens fail. The data supports this research indicates that Hugelkultur can reduce irrigation requirements by 50 to 75%. In established systems, a bed reaching 6 feet in height can potentially sustain itself through an entire summer without supplemental watering. But the value proposition extends beyond hydration. This is not just water. It is a nutrient-dense solution. As the wood breaks down, it releases dissolved minerals and organic compounds directly into the root zone. It is a self-sustaining, slow-release fertilization infrastructure that operates for decades. This is the protocol for a self-sufficient ecosystem. First, establish a foundation of dense carbon-rich logs to act as your primary reservoir. Second, layer smaller branches and organic debris to initiate the decomposition cycle. Third, cap the mound with high-quality soil to seal the system. The result is a high-yield, low-input asset that turns biological waste into long-term agricultural capital. Hugelkultur isn't just a trend. It is a strategic investment in the resilience of your land. Efficiency in agricultural management is often measured in seasons. But what if we looked at the horizon of decades? Data from the University of Vermont reveals a compelling biological balance sheet. Hardwood chips release approximately 4 pounds of nitrogen, 2 pounds of phosphorus, and 4 pounds of potassium per ton. This isn't just organic matter. It is a slow-release chemical equivalent that functions autonomously over time. Unlike traditional composting, which offers a volatile one-time nutrient spike, Hugelkultur operates on a principle of steady-state delivery. A foundation of oak or maple creates a nutrient reservoir that yields returns for 20 years. In colder corridors like Montana, this biological infrastructure can remain active for 60 years. You're not merely gardening. You're installing a decentralized fertilizer plant that eliminates the need for external inputs and annual soil disturbance. This transition shifts the soil from a bacterial-dominated state to a fungal-dominant ecosystem. Fungi are the specialized technicians of this environment, capable of breaking down lignin, the most resilient component of wood. As these mycelial networks expand, they establish what is known as the wood wide web. This is a sophisticated biological logistics system transporting information and nutrients between species, mirroring the complexity of a primary forest. While this fungal dominance favors perennials and high-value timber, it serves as a robust base for any cultivation strategy provided the topsoil is managed with precision. To implement this system, follow the strategic protocol. First, secure high-density hardwoods to serve as your long-term carbon base. Second, allow the fungal inoculation to occur naturally, prioritizing the development of mycelial architecture over quick turnover yields. Third, leverage the natural decomposition cycle. As the wood fibers contract, they create structural air pockets. This results in a self-aerating matrix that improves drainage and root penetration without the need for mechanical tilling. By integrating Hugelkultur, you are effectively outsourcing your labor to the ecosystem. You are replacing manual intervention with biological synergy, ensuring that your soil's fertility is no longer a variable but a constant. This is the ultimate benchmark of scalability, a system that grows more efficient as it ages. In the pursuit of agricultural scalability, structural integrity is often the deciding factor between success and systemic collapse. Paul Wheaton's advocacy for steep Hugelkultur beds is not a matter of aesthetics. It is a strategic engineering requirement. A steep incline ensures that the soil profile remains uncompacted. By shedding hydraulic pressure from rainfall and preventing direct foot traffic, the system maintains high porosity and aeration, essential metrics for long-term soil health. However, we must address a primary operational challenge: the nitrogen deficit. During the initial phase of a Hugelkultur installation, fresh wood introduces a significant carbon load. To facilitate decomposition, microbes must sequester nitrogen from the immediate environment. This phenomenon, known as nitrogen immobilization, creates a temporary resource scarcity. In the first year, you may observe signs of deficiency: pale foliage, staggered growth, and suboptimal yields. This is not a failure of the system, but a predictable phase of resource reallocation. To mitigate this risk and ensure a high return on investment, we implement the nitrogen stabilization protocol. First, utilize aged, partially decomposed timber. This reduces the microbial demand for nitrogen, as the most intensive decomposition phases have already concluded. Second, prioritize biological nitrogen fixation. In year 1, replace high-demand crops with legumes such as peas, beans, or clover. These species act as natural atmospheric converters, injecting nitrogen back into the soil matrix rather than depleting it. Finally, reinforce the topsoil layer. Integrate high-quality compost manure or nitrogen-rich organic matter into the upper strata. This ensures that primary root systems have immediate access to nutrients, bypassing the competition occurring in the carbon-heavy core below. By managing this initial transition with precision, you transform a temporary deficit into a permanent asset. The result is a self-sustaining, high-efficiency ecosystem that outperforms traditional methods in both stability and output. The primary concern for many stakeholders in regenerative agriculture is the immediate sequestration of nitrogen. However, when we analyze the data from the first fiscal year of a Hugelkultur system, we find that nitrogen deficiency is largely a theoretical risk rather than an operational reality. The root systems simply do not rely on the core's decomposition during the initial growth cycle. To mitigate this risk entirely, the most efficient strategy is the utilization of seasoned timber. By selecting wood that has already undergone several years of decomposition, you bypass the nitrogen-intensive phase. Research from the University of Wisconsin confirms this. Even with fresh wood plants grown in these systems showed no measurable nutrient deficiency. The perceived nitrogen lockup is not a permanent loss. It is a temporary loan, an investment in the soil's future that begins paying dividends in year 2 and beyond. Implementing this system requires a focus on scalability and site efficiency. Your location must be selected based on 2 primary metrics: maximum solar exposure and optimal hydrological collection. Avoid areas under roof overhangs. You want your biological sponge to capture every drop of rainfall for maximum retention. In urban environments, consider the aesthetic impact. A 2 to 3 foot mound offers the same strategic benefits as a larger installation while maintaining a professional profile within the community. There are 2 primary protocols for construction. The first is a surface-level integration, ideal for areas with established SOD where excavation is not feasible. By utilizing a foundation of cardboard or newspaper, you effectively suppress existing vegetation and create a clean slate for your organic materials. The second and more robust method involves a shallow trench. This 2-foot excavation provides a secure anchor for your timber, ensuring the system is fully integrated with the surrounding soil. If you choose this path, invert the removed sod directly onto the wood layer. This creates a strategic barrier that provides immediate organic matter while preventing roots from interacting with the fresh core prematurely. Now we move to the core of the structure, the strategic layering of your timber assets. In the landscape of high-performance, ecological infrastructure, waste is not a liability. It is an underutilized asset. To build a system that yields long-term dividends, we must look beyond traditional surface-level cultivation. We are discussing the strategic implementation of Hugelkultur, a subterranean carbon sequestration engine designed for maximum resource efficiency. The foundation of this system relies on the procurement of raw biological capital. Dead timber and fallen logs are not debris. They are the primary fuel for a decades-long decomposition cycle. When sourcing materials, prioritize high-density hardwoods such as oak, maple, or birch. These species offer superior structural integrity and a decelerated decay rate, ensuring your investment remains stable for years. While softwoods like pine are functional, they serve as short-term liquidity, releasing nutrients rapidly, but requiring earlier replacement. Exercise strict due diligence. Avoid black walnut and cedar. Their chemical profiles are inherently hostile to the microbial synergy required for a thriving ecosystem. Precision in the initial layout is paramount for scalability. Whether you are utilizing a recessed trench or an elevated ground-level approach, the base layer must maintain a width of 3 to 4 feet. Anything narrower compromises the structural gradient, leading to erosion and a direct loss of topsoil during heavy precipitation. This is not a solid barrier, but a deliberate lattice. Leave intentional gaps, precise 2-inch intervals to be integrated with soil. This creates the internal framework necessary for subterranean irrigation and nutrient transport. The implementation protocol follows a rigorous layered methodology. Phase 1. The primary foundation. Position your largest timber assets. Fill all structural voids with native soil to eliminate air pockets and stabilize the base. For an accelerated biological start, integrate nitrogen-rich organic matter, green clippings, or manure to catalyze the thermal decomposition process. Phase 2. Structural layering. Layer medium-sized branches atop the primary soil bed. This secondary lattice reinforces the mound while maintaining the rustic, functional aesthetic popularized by visionaries like Sepp Holzer. The goal here is not architectural perfection, but functional synergy. Phase 3. Surface optimization. The final layer is your critical success factor for the first fiscal year. Apply a minimum of 6 to 8 inches of high-quality finished compost. This is your immediate growth medium, protecting the long-term assets beneath while providing immediate returns on your planting efforts. Sophisticated systems like those developed by Paul Wheaton demonstrate the extreme scalability of this model, but for the focused professional, this two-tier approach provides the optimal balance of effort and ROI. By converting dormant biomass into a self-sustaining nutrient bank, you are not just planting a garden. You are engineering a legacy of efficiency. The verdict is clear: strategic investment in biological foundations today ensures unparalleled ecological stability tomorrow. The success of any long-term infrastructure project depends entirely on the integrity of its foundation. In a Hugelkultur system, the final layer is not merely soil, it is your primary interface for immediate growth and long-term scalability. To ensure a high-performance start, begin by deploying a premium blend of topsoil and finished compost. This is the biological capital of your system. If available, integrate peat moss or cocoa coir to optimize aeration and moisture retention. This rich carbon-dense layer will serve as the executive suite for your plant roots during their critical first year. Efficiency in year 1 requires a proactive approach to nutrient management. To mitigate the risk of nitrogen deficiency, a common bottleneck in early-stage decomposition, we implement a strategic infusion of organic matter. Integrating grass clippings, coffee grounds, or composted manure into this top layer ensures a steady supply of nitrogen. For those prioritizing absolute stability, a high-quality nitrogenous fertilizer may be utilized as a safeguard. However, a robust mature compost is typically sufficient to maintain peak operational health. Surface insulation is non-negotiable. Apply a 2 to 3 inch layer of organic mulch, wood chips, straw, or leaf litter. This acts as a protective buffer, stabilizing soil temperatures, minimizing moisture evaporation, and preventing resource erosion. As this mulch decomposes, it provides a continuous stream of organic dividends back into your system. The final phase of construction is the activation sequence. Saturate the entire structure thoroughly. This process facilitates the settling of materials and initiates the biological decomposition engine. Water until the system reaches full saturation. Once the site is activated, the construction phase is officially complete. Your focus now shifts from infrastructure development to asset management. Regarding operational scale, a standard home-scale unit typically measures 3 to 4 feet in height. This provides an optimal balance between surface area and structural stability. However, for those seeking maximum ROI, increasing the height to 6 or 7 feet yields exponential benefits. Taller systems offer superior water storage and extended growing seasons due to their increased thermal mass. While these larger-scale projects require a greater initial investment of timber and soil, the long-term efficiency is unparalleled, often eliminating the need for external irrigation entirely. What should you expect from this investment? In the first year, the primary return is drainage efficiency and moisture autonomy. In most climates, once the timber core is saturated, your irrigation requirements will drop significantly. You will observe a rapid colonization of beneficial organisms. Earthworms and microbial life will begin compounding the soil's value within weeks. Be prepared for minor structural adjustments. As the internal organic matter undergoes its initial breakdown, the bed will settle by several inches. This is not a failure of the system, but rather a sign of a high-functioning biological process. You are no longer just a gardener. You are the manager of a self-sustaining high-yield asset. The construction is finished. The growth begins now. Imagine a capital investment that pays dividends for 60 years, requiring zero maintenance after the initial setup. This is not a financial instrument. It is biological infrastructure. In the startup phase, you may encounter volatility. Soil settles. Biomass shifts. This is a mechanical necessity, much like the compression of grounds in an espresso machine. If your initial carbon-to-nitrogen ratio is skewed perhaps from using fresh timber without sufficient nitrogen inputs, expect a temporary dip in performance. Growth may decelerate. Foliage may lose its luster. This is not failure. It is a system in calibration. By mid-season, the equilibrium shifts. The subterranean wood begins to function as a strategic water reservoir. While the surface may appear waterlogged during the initial absorption phase, the system is simply building its capacity. By year 2, the magic phase begins. The decomposition process matures into a high-efficiency nutrient delivery network. Nitrogen deficits vanish. The soil transforms into a dark living asset teeming with fungal networks and earthworms. Irrigation requirements drop to near zero. To ensure your system reaches this state of peak optimization, follow the maintenance protocol. First, monitor the settling process and top dress with fresh organic compost to maintain elevation. Second, apply a consistent layer of mulch annually to protect the surface integrity. Third, resist the urge to intervene. Do not tilling. Do not add synthetic fertilizers. Let the internal decomposition drive the ROI. The long-term scalability of Hugelkultur is staggering. Using hardwoods like oak or maple creates a permanent garden bed that maintains itself for decades. Contrast this with conventional agriculture, which demands annual soil amendments, constant tilling, and heavy chemical inputs. Hugelkultur is the antithesis of this inefficiency. It is a set-and-forget system for the visionary cultivator. While skeptics point to the current hype surrounding these mounds, the data from pioneers like Sepp Holzer remains irrefutable. Yields can outperform traditional methods by 200 to 300%. We are moving past the era of constant labor and into the era of intelligent design. You are no longer just gardening. You are managing an ecosystem that grows more valuable every year you leave it alone. In the pursuit of agricultural efficiency, Hugelkultur is often marketed as a revolutionary breakthrough, a miracle system promising a 300% increase in yield. The reality, however, is governed by data, not dogma. Evidence suggests that performance is not universal. It is a variable of climate, soil chemistry, and strategic management. Let us be professional. Hugelkultur is not a miracle. It is a sophisticated resource management strategy. It won't salvage a failing enterprise overnight, but it will transform your operational efficiency. Consider the fundamental shift in ROI. By integrating carbon-rich biomass into the subsoil, you are effectively installing a decentralized irrigation system, reducing hydration requirements by up to 75%. You are eliminating the annual capital expenditure on external fertilizers. You are building a self-aerating, nutrient-dense asset that scales in value over decades. This is not just gardening. It is the conversion of waste wood into productive infrastructure. There is a quiet dignity in the decomposition of old timber, a slow-motion energy transfer from the past into the future. When we observe the forest floor, we see a system that requires no external inputs. Hugelkultur simply captures that natural synergy and applies it to a controlled environment. It is about working with existing biological momentum rather than fighting against it. To implement this system, effectively follow the execution protocol. First, identify your biomass. Fallen wood and dormant branches are your primary capital. Construct a mound. A 3-foot elevation is sufficient for a pilot project. Layer your materials with precision heavy logs at the base, followed by smaller branches and finally a cap of organic soil. Plant immediately. For the first 12 months, monitor the integration. After year 1, the system moves into an autonomous phase, requiring near zero maintenance, while extending your growing season through internal thermogenesis. My challenge to you is one of practical verification. If you have unutilized wood on your property and you are tired of the diminishing returns of traditional methods, build a single test bed. Do not build a monument. Build a prototype. Spend 1 weekend on the installation, then observe the performance for a full cycle. I am not interested in theoretical praise. I want the data. Return to this forum in 12 months and report your metrics. Did your water consumption decrease? Did your plant vitality improve? Is the system scalable for your specific environment? True innovation is validated by practitioners in the field, not by rhetoric on a screen. Your results will define the value of this methodology. If you value strategic low-input systems that prioritize long-term sustainability over short-term effort, subscribe to this channel. We are building systems that grow stronger while you grow more efficient. Thank you for your time. Let us get to work.